Can you introduce yourself for anyone that's new in Kyokushin? Who are you? What you done?
Hi, so I'm Darren Stringer, and I've done a couple of things in karate. Yeah, I mean, I started karate a long time ago, so I've had the fortunate case to have had a long career and achieve a few things. But yeah, I've been fortunate to enjoy Kyokushin and the environment that it gives around. Obviously, I do karate. I've done a little bit of judo in the past. Those are my two main martial arts. So, yeah.
What made you choose Kyokushin? Why? And who was your instructor?
So I started Kyokushin through probably my father, to be fair, because my mum and dad and their best friends, they used to go and watch the British Open before I was kind of born. And my dad's best mate, Peter, his boy did Kyokushin, to be fair. And I grew up in South London, so I was small in a rough area-ish. And as a result, I don't really know why I wanted to do karate. I just always remember wanting to do karate. It's probably Bruce Lee or something like that. Fortunately, as I said, I grew up in South London, in Streatham, right on the cusp of Brixton. And through my dad's friend, we knew about Kyokushin. I say we, my dad knew about Kyokushin. So we went to Crystal Palace to start. I think I was 8 years old when I started, and it's a little bit of a different world when we started karate back then, because there was like a waiting list and set times that you had to join the classes. Nowadays, it's just a case of you just walk in, you just start the class, and everybody's happy that you're there, to be fair. But back then it was like hundreds of people in Crystal Palace, and we were in like the main arena or the bowling hall, and then in the latter stages we started going in gym free because, you know, the numbers dwindled slightly. But so I started at Crystal Palace when I was 8. I was really fortunate to start under well, it was Shihan Steve Arneill then, but Hanshi Steve Arneill in the later years. And him and Sensei Joe Borg were my first instructors down at Crystal Palace. Joe Borg left a couple of years after I started. I hope it weren't because of me, but and then Shihan Felix Tamaza took over. So Hanshi was always there on a Friday, and I've been very fortunate to be with him for literally my whole entire career in karate. And Felix was the instructor that was taking the Tuesdays, or Sensei Joe Borg to start off with. Yeah, I was really lucky to have started at a good dojo. It's very easy for people to just pick up karate and just, you don't know no better. You know, people pick karate normally because it's the first one that's the closest to them, or, you know, little Johnny at school is doing it, so why don't you pick this one? But like I said, my dad, he'd known about it, he'd gone and seen the British Open in kind of the 80s and that lot, so I was really lucky to get into this one. It's hard work, but, you know, it's well worth it, for sure.
You have an infamous reputation for being one of the best, if not the best, technician in Kyokushin history. Can you elaborate on how you got there, why you got there, and the teachings of the late, great Steve Arneill? What did he give you for you to be as good as you are?
I think how good you are is a perception of other people, I suppose. I'm decent, don't get me wrong. Some people might say I'm really good, some people might say I'm average. You know, it's all about a perception on people. Hopefully I entertain people, I excite people, and I did well, so that's first and foremost. It's not for me to decide certainly who the best is or if it's me or not. So we're here, there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Okay. Drive that gyaku in. I didn't there. Drive it in, and then again, as Wesley mentioned earlier, we're using this rotation to come back on a straight line. Hopefully he's gone 1, 2, very flat to bring the straight back kick in. Okay, one more time. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in. Yeah? Tuck in. Off go. 1 for 1. Let's go. Hey! But yeah, I always prided myself on being an all-round karateka, probably almost definitely because of Hanshi. He always was really strict on, you know, making sure that you was focusing on every element, whether it was basics, whether it was kata, clicker, wuko. Back when we all started, I'm saying we all started because all of us are kind of in the 40s and plus in the room. So yeah, we did all elements of karate, to be fair, under Hanshi. Didn't do too much pad work and too much sparring, but that always came through all the other little bits that he taught. I was really lucky because he was obviously a great instructor. He gave a great depth on his training methods and expressed a real thoroughness around technical ability, probably because he was never the biggest himself. We're both kind of little people. I'm 5'6" with my heels on, and Hanshi's probably a little bit smaller than that, maybe 5'5", but yeah, I mean, as a result, he always drilled in technique, and he wanted me to be able to compete in everything, not just, I don't want to say a one-trick pony because it's hard to be a one-trick pony anyway in a full contact sport.
You ready?
But I enjoyed trying to be good at all elements as well, which is not easy, as a few people know. You know, having to multitask in training and things like that. People were always really surprised to say, you know, do I go to normal dojo lessons? Yeah, of course I go to normal dojo lessons because my instructor's there, for first of all. I enjoy basic karate, so why not? And then as a result, it served me well because I was pretty technical in the way I fought, the way I delivered techniques, and that technique enabled me to produce more power because it certainly wasn't for my size. In retrospect, when you look back on it, you think someone this small doesn't have kind of the right to have this much power or be able to knock down people that are maybe 6 inches, X amount of stone heavier than him. But technique's very important on that, and I think a few people in this room share that philosophy, which has fortunately been given to us from our instructors.
I'm going to pick up on a point that you said that I didn't understand until now. But Hanji and you being of similar stature, was that a very good connection? Because when a man's done 100-man kumite at that size, anything's achievable. So, because of your technical ability, I know that he took you to the World Championships when you were young, or the Junior World Championships. Could you elaborate on your first youth tournament abroad, please?
Yeah, it wasn't a world tournament, no. It was a Canadian Open, obviously in Canada. Like a fair few months before, he was like, "Look, I'm going over here to teach and be at this tournament. Do you kind of want to give it a go?" And I was the first kid really to do cadets in the organisation. So I was like, "Yeah, of course," because boys especially, you get to a certain kind of age and you want to start kind of hitting the pad. You kind of want to start testing your abilities, I suppose, in ways that weren't so able to do so back in them days, because up until 18 you were literally doing non-contact or at the very, very best semi-contact in karate. So we were all training in the dojo, doing knockdown stuff, doing kind of bag work, sparring, so you kind of got used to it, but you didn't have that kind of edge in tournaments. And it's a completely different environment, as many people will know, that when you compete versus when you do stuff in the dojo. It can be very kind of relaxed, jovial in the dojo. Even if it's really hard sparring, you know, there's kind of there's a line that most people won't step over. But on the mat, you take your eye off the ball for a minute, it's consequences can be high. So anyway, I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do this. I was 17 years old. It was the first opportunity I got to travel abroad through karate as well. Up until that point, everything had kind of been national status, unless you count Wales as international, but I don't think you do. So yeah, I started training, as everybody does for their kind of first tournament. You have absolutely no idea on what your status is, what your capabilities are, what is training enough, whether you're kind of doing the right things. But I was fortunate, you know, I trained a lot. I was reasonably fit throughout most of my career. So yeah, I went over there and gave it a bash. When I got over there, Shihan Daniel Gauthier was he was the head of the Canadian lot over there, and he looked after us, and everybody was looking at me, and I was tiny. I was like much smaller than I am now in terms of weight, maybe not height, but I think I weighed in at like 123 pounds. They weighed in pounds. I really don't know what that is in kilos, but it was light. And then everybody's looking at me going, "Are you sure he's fighting?" And Hans was like, "Yeah, he's fighting. He'll be okay. He's pretty good." So everyone was like, "I don't know, you know, he's small." So in the lead up, we was there for around about a week. I think we were there for maybe 5 days before the tournament, and a few days after the tournament, and then literally every day, because it's Hanshi, he was teaching in several different dojos. There were quite a few dojos. We were in Quebec, in Montreal, and as a result, I was training like maybe 2 or 3 times a day, which is probably not usual a few days before a tournament, but started going around a few dojos, and then obviously Hanshi's like, yeah, do this, do that, do this, and then everybody's like, yeah, okay, he's pretty decent. And I was only there originally to fight knockdown, but then it turned out that there was a tournament in Kata on the same day. So then the guy was like, Shihan Daniel was like, you know, do you want to kind of do the Kata as well? We've seen you do a lot of basics in the sessions and some Kata, so you know, you're quite welcome to do that. I kind of looked at Angie and went, well, what do you think? And he went, well, you know, you're here to fight, totally understand that if that's all you want to do. He said, but you know, you're here, so if you want to give it a go on both, then why not? I was like, yeah, go on then, you know, why not, in for a penny, in for a pound type thing. So yeah, I entered in both. And I didn't do too badly. I won the Kata and came second in the knockdown, so that's pretty good. Actually, it was like a year or the year of the first Kata World Tournament, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, so we'll see you at the World Tournament, right?" And it was later on in the year. I was like, "No," and they were like, "What do you mean no?" I was like, "Well, I didn't get picked." And I got a really, really good mark in the Kata. And I was only coming in 4th place, I think, in the Kata tournament at that point in time. Like I said, I was 17. I don't think I won it in the first time in 2003, which was the following World Tournament. So I came 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then 1st in the British Kata tournament. But I just went over there and won the Canadian Open effectively, and they were all like, well, maybe if you're not good enough to get in the team, we got a problem against the British then. So, and as it so happened, Sunil Taylor and Chris Davis, they were in the individuals, and they did really well in the tournament. So, you know, the choice was right at that point. But then 4 years later, I was able to compete in that. So, yeah, I mean, long story short, you know, I had a really good relationship with Hanshi, and the similar size and stature, and I always wanted to do 100-man myself as well, but never materialised in that fashion. Never say never, I suppose. You know, Darren Chan's got a little bit of life in him. Maybe I've got a little bit of life as well. Maybe, not too sure, but maybe.
You are the most successful kata champion in Kyokushin history. Can you tell me why? And what is it about kata that inspired you to that greatness?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the loop around in Hanshi. You know, he's really, really dedicated to Kata. First of all, he loved karate in general, and I think I don't profess to be the same as him, but I really enjoy karate as a totality. I enjoy the people, I enjoy the process, I enjoy the art of trying to perfect something that is probably never going to be perfected. But, you try really hard to get there. You train a lot to be able to do things that, dare I say it, normal people can't. I think karate is a very special breed of people. They're able to push their body, their ideology about, you know, what's capable and what's not, to another level. And I think that's probably the case with all full contact sports, but especially within karate because there's so many various disciplines. Yeah, I was really successful in karate. I think I'm probably, it sounds a little bit strange saying it, but I'm probably the only person to have won the world tournaments in knockdown and kata, because like I said earlier, most people, they tend to specialise in a single area, whereas I kind of wanted to specialise in all of them, but you know, maybe that was good, maybe that was bad, I don't know, but I enjoyed what kata gave me in multiple ways, and I always relate when I teach, what is your end goal? My end goal was to be a world champion, obviously, like probably everybody's is, and it doesn't come true for everybody, but fortunately it did for me. And I used all elements of karate to make that goal a reality. Yeah, I did much better probably in kata tournaments than I did in knockdown tournaments. I did pretty well in both, to be fair. But as a result, kata gave me a platform to develop well in knockdown as well, because when you think about what you do in kata, it's dynamic, it's explosive. You have a lot of footwork elements that exist within kata as well. So you can transform them from basic elements in karate through to a more efficient process in fighting. And I always looked at every element of training as a platform to kind of make me better. Hopefully that worked. But
as a multiple world champion in all the styles, including knockdown, I think you're being very modest on your non-contact career as well, because you're also a clicker champion. I would like to, or like you to expand upon your experiences of your first trip to Japan.
yeah, so I went to Japan in, ironically, in 2003, which was literally a few weeks after I won the first World Kata tournament, my first World Kata tournament, not the first World Kata tournament. So in 2003, I won in Poland, and then probably about a month later or something, less than a month later, I went to Japan in 2003, and I went to watch the IKO 1 World Tournament. I've always wanted to go to Japan. I think it's the ideology and the ethos and the kind of the process that every person that does Kyokushin in particular, that it comes from Japan, it stems from Japan. You want to go to Japan. I was really lucky to have gone to Japan a fair few times, but the first time I went was to actually watch the tournament, and because it was IKO 1, non-IKO 1 people weren't allowed to fight in it. I actually applied for the next tournament in IKO 1, ironically, in 2007 when I went again to watch. I didn't even hear back, so it would have been really nice, because it's probably the biggest tournament definitely in the world at that point, but definitely I would say it's the biggest tournament in Japan at a certain period of time. But it's really enjoyable, you know, it's mental, because you're kind of walking down the streets and you see like Kyokushin stuff all over the place. Everybody knows about Kyokushin in Japan, so it's like fantastic. And take karate aside, Japan's actually a really nice place to go. It's you know, the people are friendly, the people are nice, it's kind of clean. There's a lot of people in Tokyo, so there's kind of that kind of cosmopolitan buzz around it. Yeah, and I just had a great time. You know, I stayed in a little youth hostel, Yoyogi, which was one of the Olympic villages, I think, way back when. But yeah, it was really enjoyable. And I've been to Japan, crikey, maybe 5 or 6 times in total now, I think, which is quite nice. And I'd go back again tomorrow if I could.
Here's probably going to be the toughest question I can ask you. Out of your numerous world championships and medals and tournaments that you've won, what would you consider your best achievement, why, or what would you consider your best tournament and why?
I get asked this a lot, and the answer is always the same, to be fair. What is my most prized tournament, I guess, is the version I give. Maybe not the best, maybe not, the best result, but my most prized tournament is 2005 World Tournament. And that's because literally a few weeks before my dad died. So it was a very hard tournament in the sense of it was the first one I'd fought in without him being there. He used to follow me around the world, as both my parents did, to be fair. They'd been to numerous places to watch me fight, but this was kind of the first one. And it was at my first dojo as well, down at Crystal Palace. So it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster ride, to be fair. Training was going absolutely superb beforehand, and then the tournament was on the 8th of October, and my dad died on the 11th of September. So kind of had a rough couple of weeks in terms of kind of having to put that behind me in essence, to kind of reevaluate and kind of get back into training mode for a couple of weeks for the World Tournament. I came third in that tournament, and it's the only trophy that is actually, I suppose, in my house. The rest are in the loft because of the sentimental value that it kind of means as a result.
Would you say your mental toughness, as you just displayed, is one of the main assets of who you are as a person?
Yeah, I think so. People are probably going to really laugh when and they're going to agree. The people that know me, I'm quite stubborn. I'm really quite stubborn. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing in some ways. But I think mentally it makes me tough in many ways. I've had a really good work ethic my entire life to kind of overcome certain height issues, I suppose, I face. I always push myself mentally to kind of the brink. I make myself do ridiculous things in training that are mentally draining as well as physically. And I think without those kind of elements, it would have been really difficult to kind of compete in that tournament. I'm by no means the only person that has a great mental attitude. There's been a many amount of fighters. I heard that Mick Thompson lost his brother, I think it was, maybe 2 or 3 days before the British Open, and he went on and fought in the British Open, and I think it was the only time he fought and beat Michel Waddell in the British Open. So, I think Kyokushin karate in particular gives you a great mental strength because of the kind of the no-die attitude. I think is kind of instilled into the training methods. We do thousands of techniques one after the other to show no kind of pain or kind of tiredness, and I think that is a great element to have. Maybe not to the stubbornness that I have in me naturally, but it definitely helped.
3 on the right side, power. 5.
What would you say to younger Darren, or to any aspiring young Kyokushin? What advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's probably multiple answers that I could give myself. I'd probably like to travel a little bit more and see a little bit more of the kind of karate world. I was not pigeonholed because it was a choice. I definitely utilised my environment that I was in with a good dojo. I had a really good instructor, but I could have followed him around the world, to be fair, and gone and trained at various different camps and things like that, and I didn't. So I probably would have tried to explore that a little bit more if I had the money and I would have made ends meet somehow. But I think also I think I probably would have tried to have knocked people out a little bit quicker than what I either ended up doing maybe a couple of times later on in my life, but definitely earlier on in my career. I just enjoyed hitting people and being hit at the same time, to be fair. Some people might say it's little man syndrome, and maybe it is. I can't comment because I've never been big, so I can't comment on that. But yeah, I just enjoyed having a scrap on the mat, so to speak, technically, of course. But I enjoyed the process of hit and being hit. Whereas maybe I would have done a bit better in a few tournaments. Definitely earlier on in my career, had I have utilised my flexibility a little bit more, shall we say.
You are renowned for your training methods and not being injured. Could you give advice, or what advice would you give to people at training, or could you advise us on how you trained without getting injuries? Your infamous dedication to the basics has let a lot of people want to follow your methods, and you opened up an online training session. Can you tell me what it is, what it's about, how it got started, and what it means to you?
Yeah, so me and my friend Wesley Jansen, we started up KRT Tips and Tricks. And actually we had the discussion before COVID actually hit to do this, because we were going to release little tips and tricks videos for karate, the way we train, the things we do, because Wesley is very technically astute as well, and as myself, we focused on all areas of karate. And basically we were going to release little 5-minute snippet videos of training methods, and then people could kind of expand that up to, I don't know, an hour and a half, however multiple times they wanted to do the exercises to kind of improve their technical ability and kind of get some ideas on some exercises that could help with certain techniques, for example. So we had actually come up with the idea before COVID hit, and then as a result COVID hit, and literally nobody was training anywhere. You couldn't go out of your house at one point. It was mental. So probably for my own sanity and selfishness as well, it was probably created a little bit from there. But no, we turned around and we were starting to do some online sessions for our dojos, and then we was like, look, well, why don't we kind of join this together and kind of train at the same time? We can do it under the KRT banner, you know, and because Wesley's dojo is obviously Hokori Mayo, mine is Budo Kyokushin, so we couldn't really call it either of one of them, and the KRT tips and tricks kind of fitted in quite nicely with that. And then the main reason we started was to basically give people some light at the end of the tunnel in a crappy situation that we were all in, that was COVID. Couldn't see your family, you couldn't go out to the shops, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, and most of all, most people couldn't train. So we didn't want to lose, obviously, the great family that Kyokushin is, so we created this online training portal that enabled everybody to join in with us, and we actually had God knows how many world champions and European champions join us on a Saturday to join in with the sessions as well. So it also gave everybody the opportunity that they probably wouldn't have normally to train with all these great champions and see kind of their tips and tricks, so to think, in an online training portal. And that was the main reason, to basically give back, you know, myself, yourself, many people, Wesley as well, you know, we've gotten a lot out of karate from our instructors, from people that have assisted us and helped us and kind of encouraged us and kind of supported us. So it was definitely a time where we was able to give back relatively easily, because we like training, we love doing what we do, and we really enjoy teaching together as well. So it was kind of a perfect catalyst really to get that going, and we were able to have 40 plus countries joining in on our sessions, hundreds of people joining in on a week by week basis, and we came up with kind of little jovial names for each training session. So it was like Marvelous Monday and Technical Tuesday and Thunder Thursday and Fabulous Friday and Super Saturday, and all those kind of play on words. And in some ways it was to kind of keep people's spirits a little bit high as well. And you know, you see this little email come through with Marvelous Monday on it, and everyone's like, well, you know, it's not so bad, I've got training tonight. And it worked really well. You know, we were able to give to a lot of people. We were able to use our kind of familiarity with a lot of people through fighting in multiple tournaments in every region of the world almost, to be able to kind of say, hey, we're kind of doing this thing, would you come and help us out and teach for us or teach with us on like Saturdays? So we had, you know, it's too many names to mention, and if I mention one name it's probably going to upset a load of other names, but we had so many high caliber people teaching on those sessions with us, and that can only benefit everybody else. You know, we did, not to say that we didn't get anything out of it, but we didn't really do it for a personal gain. We did it to kind of keep people engaged, so that when the whole world kind of ended with its COVID stage, that everybody was like, well, okay, I can actually just step back into the dojo, because, you know, they could have quite easily have stopped, they could have quite easily have gone somewhere else and gathered a new interest, or they could have just been really happy with all the money they saved in COVID and sat on their armchairs for the rest of their life. But they didn't, and they did support us, and we did support them back, and as a result, we still teach today, to be fair, online, albeit once a week, because everybody has, rightly so, gone back to their dojos, and we're very happy that we could have played a small part in the process to facilitate that and keeping people engaged.
When you're not teaching your fantastic basics online, where can I find you? How can I learn from you?
So I'm not too far from where we are right now in Purley. I teach in South Croydon. I don't live there, but I teach there, and everybody's really surprised when they say, "Well, you don't live here." I'm like, no, I live 40 minutes away or so. I teach at my dojo called Budo Kyokushin, which is in South Croydon, in Melville Avenue. If you want to find me, I'm on social media, either me personally or my dojo, or through KRT Tips and Tricks if you want to join in on the online course as well. Yeah, I mean, I teach multiple times a week. I'm also heavily involved with the organisation that I'm with, running courses, etc., teaching abroad as well. So I'm around quite a few places, and all you need to do is get in touch and we will gladly welcome you to the dojo anytime.
What would you say is the most rewarding thing you have got from Kyokushin?
I think someone else has already said this, but it is a family feel. You know, I've got a lot of really close friends through karate, a lot of really close friends. I mean, for example, I don't really have any school friends that I kind of stay in touch with now, and that's mainly to do with karate as well, because I was so focused on karate. I wasn't going out kind of clubbing all the time. I did go out obviously with my friends, but I kind of put things on a back burner to focus on karate all the time. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to, you know, dedicate a lifestyle to karate, and selfishly, I've done that for probably 33 years, I think now I've been training. Started when I was 8, so yeah, I just turned 41, so 33 years. But I've met a lot of really good people through karate with kind of a similar mindset, a similar ethos. We enjoy doing karate, training karate. We enjoy having a laugh and messing around with said people as well. So I think if you're looking for people to kind of be around, enjoy training hard, or, you know, getting a bit fitter, meeting like-minded people, I'd say karate is definitely the place for you, because although it's not really a team sport, you don't go around kicking a ball around as 11 team, but you go to the dojo and you kind of have a really good environment. At least I'd like to think at my dojo we do, and I know it happens in many other dojos as well, that you can just kind of enjoy yourself. You know, you forget about the crap day that you had. For example, when I was talking about the incident that happened in 2005 when my dad passed away, karate was a great saviour for me in that way, because as much pain as I was going through at the time, mentally outside of that, I was able to just go to the dojo and train with, you know, various people, and for that hour and a half, 2.5, maybe 3 hours if you trained with me, you was only really focused on kind of doing the best you can and not collapsing, to be fair. So it's a great place to be, and I genuinely, I know I'm a bit biased, but I'd say that I'm very surprised that more people don't get involved in it, because it's so diverse, it's so multiple channels that you can kind of go down, and it will help out a lot of other areas of your life, whether it's work, whether it's your attention to kind of focusing on something, whether it's to kind of meet people, get fitter, yada yada yada, you name it. Kind of karate's kind of got it, plus a few bruises on top, and you know, that's it's always fun, right?
With your multiple achievements, 2 questions. 1, is there another tournament within you? 2, what do you want to achieve in the next 10 years?
I think another tournament, I don't think I'd never say never. I'm in really quite good shape, as I mentioned earlier, no major injuries. Maybe that would change if I was to do another tournament. But no, I mean, I think once you're kind of bug bitten by full contact or karate sports, I think it is always in you to want to do another one. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think yes, but who knows? Time and life takes over, and you can't odds what's going on sometimes in the rest of your life. In the next 10 years, I'd like to grow in many ways. Maybe a couple of more inches height as well, it'd be good, but I'd like to grow the dojo. I have a fantastic dojo at the moment, don't get me wrong, But the more people we get, the more people that we can share this beautiful sport that we do, sport and martial art, because it fits in both boxes. I'd like to grow the organisation, and I'd like to grow the profile of Kyokushin in general, because there are a lot of organisations out there, but ultimately we all came from one place. And obviously this is one Kyokushin, so that kind of fits very, very nicely in that ethos, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that do Kyokushin, there's a lot of people that know about Kyokushin, but there's also 7 billion, 8 billion people on the planet, and maybe 7 billion of them don't, and I think they should, because I think what one Kyokushin does is beautiful. I think what every Kyokushin organisation, by and large, does is a great thing, and I would like to see a lot more people enjoying what we have been lucky enough to enjoy.
As a content creator yourself with KRT, how do you think One Kyokushin has changed the platform?
Yeah, One Kyokushin changed the platform because it's literally like everywhere. It's as global as you can get. You know, don't get me wrong. I had like 40 countries joining in on KRT tips and tricks with me and Wesley. We had hundreds and hundreds of people coming to train with us every single week, week in, week out, over a 2-year period or whatever. So we've got a pretty good, I don't want to use the word fan base, but I guess a social media reach. I think what One Kyokushin and Sammy do in particular is they don't have any bias, any prejudice against anybody or anything. They kind of share loads of things going on, and as a result, and rightly so, it's reached over, I don't know, 200,000 followers or near to 200,000 followers, and with that kind of content going out regularly, people get to kind of see great martial artists, great content, a very, very diverse concept as well, because, you know, KRT tips and tricks, for example, we're only sharing me and Wesley. And people might get bored of that, or they might not, but with One Kyokushin, there's so much going through that on like an hourly, daily basis, and I think what Sammy did for the world of Kyokushin is fantastic. I know he probably is a little bit embarrassed and a little bit shy about to take credit for what he's achieved, but you know, let's not beat about the bush too much. He did create it. He did do the work, and he put in the efforts, and he worked with a lot of people to create that content that keeps going out there and keeps inspiring people to maybe keep going to the dojo, to keep on training on those cold, wet nights that exist out there. And I think that's fantastic. So it's not just me, the one that's going out in the cold and the rain and stuff like that, but everybody can look back on One Kyokushin and see, maybe one day you're there, maybe one day you're not, but it's a great platform.
There are rumours you may be coaching abroad with another Darren from Kyokushin. Can I ask you, how did you get involved? What's it about? What are you doing?
Yeah, the double Ds, Darren and Darren. It's always a confusing time when we're together, because everyone's like, Darren, we're like, yeah, which one are you talking about? So normally it's Chan and Stringer to make it easier. But yeah, I mean, I've known Darren Chan for over 20 years, easily. I think we met probably around about 2000, 2001. We actually fought in our first world tournament in Valencia together 20 years ago this year, 2002. So we've had some ups, we've had some downs, we've had some good times, we've had some arguments, but ultimately we've always been really close. We've trained a lot together, we've fought a few times against each other, competed against each other as well. It's always enjoyable to be around him, and as a result, we got talking probably earlier on this year again, quite a lot, I think it was, and then kind of got back into each other's lives, I guess, and then the bombshell came along when he was like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this, do you want to come with me? And I was like, well, yeah, of course, why not? You know, it's always nice to be asked and appreciated. I appreciate what Darren is looking to do as well. Probably in the twilight stages, of, should we say, of his career. There's probably a few more left if he wants it. But yeah, I mean, he's a great talent. You know, I always, which is why we train together so much in the early years, pushing each other, doing mental things to kind of break the other person and keep driving each other forward and trying to make each other better without kind of having a jealous effect on that, which I think worked really well. So if I can help him in any way to try and be successful in this tournament, if I can assist him in any way, then yeah, why would you not want to do that? Because ultimately someone has done it for me in the past. Hanshi, for example, Felix, other fews people are there. So I think if you're able to give back, then for sure, and it'll be a giggle anyway, either way, because we always have a laugh and a giggle, and hopefully we get a trophy as well. So good luck to Darren. I hope he does well. I hope we do well, so to speak. But yeah, it should be good.
My last question has to be this. I don't want to end on a somber note, but I know the relationship firsthand. But can you just explain what the late great Hanshi Steve Arnold meant to you?
Yeah, Hanshi meant a lot to me. Kind of like a father figure, I guess. And I know lots of people had great relationships with him, and I don't profess to be the only one to have had that relationship with him. But I looked up to him immensely from a very, very early age. I knew that this was kind of the path for me. I wanted to do Kyokushin karate because of him. I wanted to kind of be like him. I wanted to be able to kind of inspire people and kind of lead the way, I guess, that he kind of did, although no one can. But as a result, he's very, very important in my life. And, you know, in 2021 we lost kind of a great man, not just in the karate world, but a great man. You know, he did many things for many people that would not be in the positions that they are today. You know I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I achieved today without him. I think probably hundreds, thousands, is probably impossible to put a number on the lives that he's touched. Is unbelievable, and that's just one man.
I'm enjoying it tremendously.
Okay.
All bringing back fantastic memories to me. What we used to do without the Zoom, when I think at the dojo of Sose Oyama, the first one, you know, it's so similar. You know, I'm very, very proud of both of you. Thank you very, very much. And I think everybody with any IFK who are watching, they should really be privileged to have the two of you doing such a marvelous job. And, you know, if Sosa was alive, I'll tell you what, he would just be over the moon. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank
Really,
you.
really.
Thank you so much, Hanshi.
Just one man doing all of those things unselfishly, giving back, doing what he loves. And I think that's a very, very important thing to why he was so successful, because he loved karate, because he loved doing them things. And he just had a passion that every time he walks into the dojo, it kind of, if he had a rubbish day, you kind of didn't know about it because he just enjoyed being in the dojo. And I think the relationship that we had, I was very fortunate, as I said, to have trained with him from day one. You know, I didn't know anything else other than Hanshi from day one to the day he died in July last year. And then after that, you know, the world kind of stands still a little bit, and probably still is standing still for me a little bit as a result. But it's those kind of relationships that kind of you create in the past that maybe determine you for the future, and they kind of live with you forever. You know, I was very fortunate. I'd go to the lessons early. I'd kind of train with him privately for a little bit before maybe the juniors were there, and then I'd do some stretching and some other work, and then I'd train in the seniors with him afterwards. But yeah, I was incredibly lucky, incredibly blessed to have had those opportunities and the relationship that I was fortunate enough to have with him. I miss him on a daily basis. It's never going to change. And maybe one day we see each other again, but I won't know that for a few years, hopefully.
Multiple world champion in Kata. You're a multiple world champion, or multiple champion in knockdown. You're not too bad at non-contact either. Could you give someone who doesn't know Kyokushin, never seen Kyokushin, has nothing, no experience, why start? Why come to our organisation?
Why start? Because I think everybody wants to be better than they were the day before. And I think karate is the epitome of that. Absolute epitome of it. It doesn't matter whether you take a small progress today and a big progress tomorrow. The ideology and the process is that you should aim to be better than you were yesterday. And I think everybody wakes up with that attitude. I think karate will help with that.
Darren Stringer, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I thank you for your service to the organisation and the inspiration you've given to many.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.